attitudes of Emirati female teachers toward the education, toward the inclusion of students with intellectual disabilities in primary government schools in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. Why did I choose this topic? Why exactly inclusive education? Why female teachers? Why government schools? There are a lot of reasons for that. First of all, what do I mean by inclusive education or by inclusion itself? Inclusive education as a terminology is a process where school systems welcome all learners, all students, despite of their background, abilities, disabilities, capabilities, ethnicities, or whatever, in the same school where they all learn together. As studies show and evidence show that children usually do better when they learn together. Inclusive education in the UAE is implemented in the terminology that social inclusion, meaning students with disabilities in general, or as they were used to be called special needs, are included in regular classrooms in government schools. In the past, those students were used to be educated in special classes. Some of them, they were educated in special facilities called Special Needs Center, but since 2010, the Ministry of Education introduced an initiative which actually launched the social inclusion, and introduced inclusion in all government schools, starting with primary stage. Well, actually, UAE was one of the pioneers in the area here in the Arab region in adopting inclusion and promoting special education. Since the establishment, the foundation of the country, actually, schools, primary schools especially in the UAE, had special classes. And whenever the trend moves toward new theories or new ideas in inclusion, UAE usually used to adopt and adapt accordingly. So in the 80s and in the 90s, more emphasis were introduced to special education, special classes. Then special classes were turned into resources rooms. Then in the starting of the 2000s, they started introducing social inclusion gradually into schools. In 2006, there was the federal law 29, which was called the federal law regarding the rights of people with special needs at the beginning, and then it was amended in 2009 to reflect people with disabilities. This law actually grants people with disabilities their rights in different areas, in education, in health, in employment, and in different areas as well. After the ratification of the UN Convention in 2010, the UAE moved into introducing social inclusion in government school, as I mentioned, which was called School for All. The initiative was called School for All. As we all heard about the new policy of the empowerment, the national empowerment policy, which was announced by His Highness Mohammed bin Rashid recently in March 2017, which promote the social inclusion in all areas in UAE, and with focuses on education, health, social benefits, and removing social stigma from people with disability by even changing the terminology. So we all heard of the terminology, the new terminology of people of determination, or ashab al-himam in Arabic, which was the English-speaking newspaper was really struggling to translate this terminology, what exactly they call it, and they come up with the determined ones, or people of determination. And maybe we are the only country in the region that promoting this terminology for people with disability, and promoting a positive image of them in the society. Significance of the study. Why or what is exactly significant about this study? As I important, and most countries now internationally are going forward into implementing, enhancing, and promoting inclusive education, not only for people with disabilities, that including all different all children from different areas, minorities, background, ethnicities, and etc. But since government education only admit students with Emirati students, we're trying to include students with disabilities and promoting their successful education. There is a really very limitation in research about UAE and about this area in special education. I was struggling to find reliable literature regarding UAE, special education and inclusion in particular. So this study will enrich the literature, hopefully, and will bridge the gap in literature about special education in the UAE and about inclusive practices. There is some implication from international studies about the attitudes of teachers. As I noticed that in most literatures that are done in different countries, even the developed countries, there are negative attitudes about negative attitudes from teachers about inclusion. And I hardly found research done about the attitudes of teachers in the UAE. So this will actually will add to the literature. Also, the teacher's role is very important in implementing a successful inclusion. If we identify their attitudes, whether positive or negative, then we can do something about it. And then we can identify also the factors that are associated with these attitudes, and accordingly we can improve the implementation of inclusive practices in the UAE. The study design, as shown here, I used 3 different study design: interpretive, exploratory, and mixed method. Interpretive because I'm researching attitudes, and I need to know more about the teachers' attitudes, about individual attitudes, and how these are related with different factors. Exploratory because there is little known about this subject, and usually exploratory research is used to answer research questions. And mixed method with more focus on qualitative research methods, because it will enhance and validate the data and give more strength to the study. Research questions. I used 3 very simple research questions that actually led the research design. What are the attitudes of teachers? What are the factors associated with these attitudes, and what are the recommendations? The theoretical framework, I used 3 different theories. First of all, of course, the social model of disability. If you are familiar with the social model of disability deals with put focus on the disability as the impairment is not in the disability itself, but in the society. So if we remove the social barriers, then inclusion will happen. Vygotsky's social cultural theory, and Vygotsky is a Russian theorist and scholar, and his research was revolutionary in the area, and he actually introduces the basis of special education, and emphasized on that students with disabilities will learn better if they are accommodated with a positive environment where adults have positive attitudes when dealing with them. The theory of attributional reformulation by Cooper and Fezio, and this theory actually helped with understanding the attitudes of teachers and how are associated with their behavior and their dealing with students in inclusive practices. Methodology. as I said, I used mixed methods with more focus on qualitative. Questionnaire, I used questionnaire with closed items and open-ended items. The closed-ended items provided the data for the quantitative part of the findings, and then I used the other research methods to enhance and validate the data with the semi-structured interviews and focus group, lesson observations, document analysis, and literature review. Organization of chapters, I organized the study in 5 chapters. The introduction, where I gave a background of the study, a brief history on special education in the UAE. I also introduced some brief information about human development, education, information on teachers and school distribution, and of course the purpose of the study, assumption, limitation, and etc. Chapter 2 was with the literature review, where I spoke about the theoretical framework, inclusion history, inclusion in the UAE in more details, and also I introduced a section on disability in Islam and how Islam view disability from Islamic teaching perspective. And also I included studies, international studies that talking about teachers' attitudes and about factors. The third chapter talks about research methodology in details and about the trustworthiness and ethics and methodology challenges. I also included a good amount of 10 pages about the challenge of translation, because I did most of the data collection in Arabic, and all the survey and the interviews and all the data collection was done in Arabic. So translation was a little bit of a challenge. So I did a lot of back-to-back translation, and I justified actually why I did that myself, because I used to be an English teacher and I had a certification in translation as well, and since I have experience in both in education and translation, I prefer to do that myself. So I included justification for why I used that in my research. The fourth chapter was for the finding, and I did it with according to research questions. So I gathered all the data related to one question from all the research methods and added them in one section. And then did the analysis at the end and had a summary of all the findings at the end of the chapter. Chapter 5 was for the discussion, conclusion, and the recommendation. These are some slides when I justified why I did my study in the government schools. I did not include the private schools as a beginning. As I said, there is not much literature done in the UAE, and as we can see, most of Emirati students are enrolled in government schools. So I thought of starting my research with government schools, and as the government is putting a lot of emphasis on actually having a successful implementation of inclusion in government schools. Why female teachers? As you can see, female are about 72% of the distribution of teachers in government schools, and from these, around 45% of them are Emirati, and 93% of these female teachers, from the Emirati teachers, 93% of them are female. So we can say that children in government schools are mostly taught by female students. So that's why it was important to identify their attitudes toward inclusion in order to have a successful implementation. Site and participant selection. I can say that I struggled a little bit with the sample, because the numbers of teachers, the Emirati female teachers in schools is not many, as I realized. I thought if I choose 4 or 5 schools, then I will cover the sample. But unfortunately, I realized that in any school there were only 10 or 15 Emirati female teachers. And most of them will be reluctant to participate or to answer the surveys, and some of them actually refused even to sign the consent or to be recorded or to be videotaped. Of course, so what I did, I took only the one that gave consent to the surveys and to the interviews, and I used all note-taking to record all the data. So you can imagine the struggle and the challenges with that. That's why the number of the sample is a little bit not as expected, but it was efficient and compatible to the international data. The findings, as expected, it wasn't surprising because it's compatible and parallel to all international data with studies, with the different percentages and in different factors associated with that. Most participants had negative attitudes toward inclusion of students with intellectual disabilities. Well, actually, most of them had negative attitudes toward including any students with disabilities, whether intellectual or not, but at least some of them had some positive attitudes toward including students with physical disabilities, as some of them quoted they have nothing wrong with their mental or with intellectual processing of information. But I can say that most of them had negative attitudes toward having students with intellectual disabilities in regular classrooms. These are some examples of the responses of participants toward the closed items. As we can see, responding to the statement, in general, students with intellectual disabilities should be placed in special classes or schools specifically designed for them. We can say that 78% agreed on that. 78%, if we include the undecided one, will have more than 80% of participants actually wanting those students back to special classes or special schools instead of having them in regular classes. When asked about if it is unfair to expect or ask regular teachers to accept students with intellectual disabilities, we can see that 84% think that or believe that it is unfair to be asked for them to teach those students. So you can imagine the attitudes of these teachers if they have students with intellectual disabilities in their classes. A good regular educator can do a lot to help a student with intellectual disability. You can see 74% of them didn't agree on that, and that is that they didn't believe that they could actually do anything to help those students with intellectual disability. These are, in brief, the findings of the attitudes of teachers. As you can see, 56% didn't think inclusion would help students with intellectual disabilities being in regular classrooms. 65 participants did not agree that students with intellectual disability will learn more quickly in regular classrooms. 61% of the participants believe that students with intellectual disability will disrupt the class. That you can imagine. Having one of those students in the class will disrupt the class. 88% of participants believe that inclusion placed unreasonable burden on the teachers. Most of teachers participants even in the interview expressed that they felt that those students in their classes are a big burden for them, having to put more efforts, more time, and to even pay from their own pocket to just accommodate or provide for them in the class. 93% of participants believe that having a student with disability in their class meant more work. 90% of participants believe that students with disability were taking too much of their time. 78% of participants believe that students with disabilities should be placed in special classes. 85% of participants believe that special education teachers should teach these students, so not regular teachers, only special educational teachers should teach them. 48% of participants believe that students with intellectual disabilities were too impaired to be included in regular classroom. 84% believe that it was unfair for them to be expected to accept them in classes. 54% of participants did not believe that a regular teacher could help those students in regular classrooms. So these were, in brief, most of the attitudes. As you can see, most of them were negative about having students with intellectual disabilities in their classes. Now, what are the reasons behind this? What are the factors associated with these attitudes? As you can see, the most important factor associated with these attitudes is because of the lack of teachers' training and knowledge on inclusion. Most of teachers expressed that they actually did not have any training in how to deal with students with intellectual disabilities. They don't know what strategies that could be implemented, how can they handle behavioral issues, what kind of teaching aids that should be used or can be used with these students. Only like a few of them did attend such training. So there is actually the lack of teacher training, the lack of knowledge, the lack of understanding why are we having inclusive education? Why are we including these students? Aren't they be better in special classes? Most of teachers believe that these students will be better if they were taught by special educational teachers, as they used to be in the past, or would be in special classes because they didn't have enough training to deal with that. So it was like they were fearing the unknown for them. So teachers felt frustrated, felt disappointed, felt pressure because of having those students in their classes, and that led to these negative attitudes. Self-efficacy, teachers' self-efficacy. Most of these teachers, because of the lack of knowledge, lack of training, lack of expertise, they have low self-efficacy, which lead them to become not confident in dealing with students in their intellectual disabilities in their classes, which accordingly led to negative attitudes. Teachers' workload. As found by the study, those teachers were actually doing many classes per week and per day. Most of these teachers have other duties expected to be done during the school day. They have administrational duties, they have assessments, they have activities to carry on. So, and most of them did not have any teacher assistant in class. And not shadow teachers, especially with students with autism. So they were struggling to accommodate those students within the actual workload imposed on them by school administration. This frustration did not allow them to give proper time to these students, and accordingly having them have negative attitudes toward having them in classes, and preferring that those students to be sent somewhere else, or to be kept in school but within special facilities taught by different or special educational teachers. Lack of financial resources and provisions. As I said, most of when the initiative was launched in 2010, most of the schools were not prepared to receive students with intellectual disabilities. And although the financial budget for the Ministry of Education is large, and although some of this budget actually allocated to school, not much is spent on special education. So teachers, most of them had to prepare their own teaching aids, their own accommodation. Some of them even went far and hired some teacher assistants in class just to provide and to relieve some of the burden, as she quoted, on her in classroom. So that puts a lot of pressure, financial pressure on teachers. And there is not a lot of provisions available for teachers in class, even with resources or accessibility in schools. And that also, of course, will lead to negative attitudes. Lack of school administration support. Most of those participants express that their schools are not very supportive when it comes to their efforts with those students. They are not being recognized or acknowledged or even being appreciated in school. The lack of school support also is extended that they don't have an team expertise, as I say, to consult them or to advise when they have problems. All of them, or most of them, rely on the special educational teachers in schools, and usually there is only one in each school. So that leads also to frustration and to having negative attitudes. Types of disabilities. Most of them will have had no problem with having students with physical disabilities, as I mentioned before. But according to the severity of the disability, the more negative the teachers will have towards students with intellectual disabilities. So if it is mild or only learning difficulties, teacher will find a way to accept them, kind of have some accommodation, some provision for them. But when the severity of disability is increased, teacher will feel frustrated, will not know how to deal with the student, especially if those students have some behavioral issues as well. Lack of specific policy or law regarding inclusive education. As I mentioned, we have a law regarding people with disabilities in general, but still there is no specific law or policy regarding special education or regarding inclusive education. There is ambiguity on the teachers. They don't know, they're not being communicated when there is some changes or what exactly is expected from them. So this also leads to some negative attitudes. The social stigma, as we can see from their responses, most of these teachers see those students are not able to learn, they are a burden, they are a disrupt to the class. Some of them will be labeled in class, some of them will be bullied, even by the teachers sometimes, or other, on the contrary, they will find them fragile, need protection, need to be in a protective environment, need to be taught by special teachers or by expertise. So social stigma, even with the teachers, it is more affecting the attitudes than in the society as general. The lack of parent support. From international studies, we could see that parents play a vital role in the education of their children if they have intellectual disabilities. What I found from the study that the role of parent is still needs some improvement. Teachers feel frustration because the parents are not collaborating in the education of their children. Most of them will rely on the school, or they will just leave the responsibility to the school, and some of them will also avoid even having their students be put into any accommodation just to avoid being labeled as student with disability. So this also will lead teachers to suffer, struggle, being frustrated, and will lead to negative attitudes. Recommendations were gathered from the participant responses and from the literature review as well. And a set of recommendations was introduced in the study depending on the factors themselves. As you can see, as teacher training, the lack of teacher training and knowledge lead to negative attitude, then the recommendation is to improve teachers training and have like a more comprehensive professional development program that start in pre-service and in service and even during service, which should be ongoing. So teachers will believe in, will understand the philosophy of inclusion, will believe in it, and then will work to implemented successfully in schools. Promoting teacher self-efficacy, and that will be, of course, by enhancing their ability giving them more training, so they'll be more knowledgeable, having more skills to teach those students and to handle them in classes. Reducing teachers' workload will help teachers have more time to have more one-on-one sessions to those students. Having teacher assistants in class will help relieve some of the burden that they feel and the struggle that they feel having to deal with these students in class, and also attending to other students as well. Having school support and team collaboration, and having a team of expertise that will help advise them, consult those teachers, and acknowledge their efforts, so the morality will at least give them some positive attitudes. Having clear communication and instructions, whether from the Ministry of Education or from school administration to teachers, or from teachers to parents, all of this will enhance and improve the practice of inclusive education. Having a flexible curriculum, as teachers will struggle to modify the existing curriculum to adapt it to the needs of these students. Having a flexible curriculum which will release some of the burden on them, so just to adapt and modify according to the needs of these students. Appropriate provisions and resources in schools, having those provisions, resources available to teachers in schools, whether like teaching aids, whether books or new articles or new strategies, will help promote the positive attitudes in teachers. Having a clear inclusion framework, which being communicated to teachers and communicated to schools also as well, and have some evaluation and assessment regularly, so it will enhance and improve any practices that are found not working in schools. Having parent support will also enhance and improve the teachers' attitudes, and maybe I think I did mention here, having promoting inclusive education through media and social media, so to just remove the stigmatized images and the social stigma from labeling these students as incompatible or not capable to learning, and promoting inclusive education in a better way to teachers and parents, so they will contribute to the successful implementation of inclusive education. So that was a brief of the thesis. Thank you very much for your listening, and if you have any question, I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you.